live from the Roar Zone in Marietta. How was the traffic?
Ooh, it was
tough?
a bit of a war zone.
All right, a bit of a Roar Zone coming to the Roar Zone.
That's right.
Man, I love it. Hey guys, this is the second time we've had my man David on here. We did a show down in downtown, but we just couldn't get strong enough Wi-Fi. But we connected so strong from Jump Street that I had to have him on. You gotta, and here's why. You know, I'm going to use this word. I'm going to use this title because it's going to get people's attention. Superpower, right? You think of comic books. You think of this outrageous title. But honestly, when you map everything back to business, and when you map everything back to success, and when you map everything back to self-image and communication, all that under one umbrella, it really maps back to whatever title you want to put on it: platform speaking, professional speaking, public speaking, whatever that is, live and in color, right? Trumps it all. And so that's what David teaches, but he teaches it in a way that he's going to share it with you. But that's why I'm excited about this show, because it maps back to everything that means something. And when you can learn how to do that in an authentic way, it's like a superpower.
It really
you know,
is.
when you go to a networker, when you cold call, whatever that is, it creates a self-image that can't be bought. So there's my edifying, baby. So introduce yourself and let everyone know where you're from, where it all started, and we're going to chunk this down.
All right, so Davide Di Giorgio. I am originally from Toronto, Canada. That's where it all started.
Okay.
And as a wee lad, I began as a musician and a composer. And that was most of my life. For the last 20, 25 years, I've been a producer,
Okay.
a creator.
Okay.
And that's where it all started. I basically became an expert at taking a blank page, a blank stage, a blank space, an idea, and turning it into something.
Okay.
And so the journey of that, when I ended up here in San Diego, I started to go to a lot of events. And I started to see a lot of entrepreneurs who, you know, they have these big launches and lots of success, and I would see them get on stage, and I was just terrified, horrified at what I saw on stage. And I thought, well, how is it possible that this person is so successful, and yet they show up on stage as like a much smaller version of themselves, as much smaller than what I saw in the webinar, or what I saw in their Facebook ads, or what my perception was from their still shots or from their marketing. And I thought, well, that's just a shame.
Yeah.
And so I started to wonder and create this idea of like, well, what if I actually worked, instead of with performers in musical theater and television, if I worked with entrepreneurs who are up to something big, up to something bigger than just making money. They want to create impact in the world.
And legacy.
And legacy, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, I mean, any clients that I work with, I always say, when someone says, who's your ideal client? I said, it's someone who is up to something bigger than just making money. And if you're up to something bigger, then we have something to talk about.
Yeah, you know, that's a great thing. I'm glad you went there, because I'm a big proponent on when your why becomes bigger than you, or when your why becomes big enough, it's going to pull you through. But when your why becomes bigger than you, you're going to be unstoppable. You know, and I want you to talk about this, because we're going to tie it into fear barriers. You know, we all know that they say that speaking on stage, speaking in public is one of the biggest fears ever.
Yeah.
So what do you do for your clients? Because I'm sure you have clients that come and you probably have a wide array, right?
Yeah.
So you have the seasoned, you have the ones that are climbing that ladder, and you have the ones that actually are like, where do I start?
Yeah,
what do I
exactly.
do? And I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
Let's start with those. What do you do? If I come to you and I go, David, I'm gonna build my brand,
Yeah.
right? I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that, and we connect. But I'm terrified, right? I'm whispering, I'm shaking. What do you do?
So there's two sides to it.
Okay.
The first thing I say is this. Look, when we work together, when you decide to invest in yourself, to be a speaker, and to become unforgettable, the fear part is going to dissolve. Okay. So just trust that as you go through this process, you're going to say at the end of it, and there is no end, it's an ongoing, but at the end of it, you're going to look at it and say, I was afraid of what? Because
there's monster on the bed.
Right, exactly. Right. Totally.
Right.
There is no monster. And you know, I love the expression, you kill the monster when it's a baby. And that's what we do. We kill the monster right when it's a baby. Because I'm like, fear, let's change the definition of fear. Okay. So for me, fear is opportunity. So I say, okay, so what are you afraid of? You afraid of building that legacy, of getting your message out there? Well, now that sounds ridiculous, right? Because when you start, so that means to me, when someone is afraid, their why, their vision isn't big enough. Okay. Or you haven't thought about it. Right. Now, when we talk about, well, what are you really up to in life? Usually people start to light up. Now you say, okay, well, can you talk about that? They're like, oh, I can talk about that all day. Okay, so fear what? Right. You see, so there's no issue. Now there's an ongoing conversation. So if we make fear opportunity, now we can have a conversation with fear. So we say, well, what am I actually afraid of? Oh, I'm afraid of forgetting. No problem. We'll learn the tools for that. I'm afraid of making a fool of myself. No problem. The point is to be weird. Because weird people stand out. Look at Elon Musk. He's weird. Yeah. I mean, Richard Branson. I mean, I've seen pictures of him in full drag with lipstick. I mean, that's weird. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And look at the success. So embrace being weird. Let your freak flag fly. You know, like that's the whole thing about it, right? So through the process, and you start to understand, really what I do is I train people how to become more themselves and how to broadcast themselves in a way that is very clear and effective through speaking, through creating experiences. Okay. But it's all way of being. It connects to the why.
Talk about that. Let's go deeper on that because I think that's the core. Is that the epicenter?
Oh, absolutely.
So when you say that, give us that definition.
Right. So most people in the speaking world, or what we see as an audience when we watch a speaker, we see what's above the waterline. So if we look at the iceberg, what's above the waterline is how they deliver, how they speak, their content, what the presentation looks like. And where a lot of speaker coaches fall short and a lot of speakers fall short is they don't address what's under the waterline. And at the bottom, at the deepest level, is your why, and that is the vision. So the first step that I always take people through is, why do you want to speak in the first place? Let's get clear on that. Most people come to me right away and they say, I want to speak about this, I want to speak about this, let's develop it, I have ideas, I'm writing. I said, let's throw all of that away. Right. We need to figure out, why do you actually want to speak? And if the answer is something like, oh, well, you know, I want to build my platform, and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't turn me on. It needs to be bigger. What is the driving factor? What is it that pulls you, like you said, that is so big, that is the biggest version of yourself, the idea that you really want to get out there? That is what will attract people and turn you into that magnet. When that is the driving force underneath everything, then what you do is you apply that why to, let's say, a specific talk. So in a specific talk, your why actually looks like, so I was a teacher actually for 10 years. I taught high school music in high school, and we call that the enduring understanding. The enduring understanding is this: after you've forgotten everything else about a particular lesson or a workshop or a talk, what is it that you want your audience to remember, to take away? The one thing, if they forget everything else, that they want to take away.
What is that golden nugget?
The golden nugget, and it's driven and attached to your why in some way. Because if it's not attached to your why, there's a misalignment, and you're not going to be passionate enough about it. You're not going to light up about it, right? Yeah. So when you figure out the enduring understanding, now we're at totally below the surface here. So after why, people say, okay, now I'm ready to write my talk, right? I'm ready to develop. I'm like, no, we have to stay in discovery. So just to step back a second, when people ask me, what's your system? What's your mind? Everyone's so obsessed with systems nowadays. What's your blueprint?
What's your formula?
So the blueprint is you, and the formula is this. We have discovery, development, and delivery. And my job is to keep you as long as possible in discovery. Because the minute we go into development, we stop being creative. The minute we move on to like figuring it all out, we stop discovering what it actually is.
Yeah, you start to shut down.
Exactly.
Right, and now you're in a lane.
Right.
Instead of being
I don't want you to pick a lane yet. I want you to figure out what is the lane. What is the lens through which you want everything to come through. Right. So for you, like, your big lane is motivation that is driven by fear, that they're connected somehow, right? And so now we know you as that. It's clear. It's your brand. It's your speaking enterprise and the platform. But most speakers don't have that. They talk about a variety of things, which means they talk about nothing.
Right. There's no no direction.
We know what Tony Robbins is about. We know what Oprah is about. We know what Ellen DeGeneres is about. Whoever, right? We know that it's very clear. But most speakers are like, I'll speak whatever you want me to speak about. Well,
oh man, when I hear that, it's
so you speak about nothing.
Right. When you hear that, it's just like it's so empty.
Right.
There's so empty.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's so empty.
Different when you ask, okay, look, I have an audience of business people, and this is sort of the topic that we're discovering or talking about, and you as the speaker come back and say, oh, well, I talk about this, and it connects this way.
Right.
So you filter what they want through your lens. Now you're talking. Now I'm getting goosebumps. Now I'm interested.
Right. And now you know you can bring real value. Now you know you can bring them through this journey, right? Yeah. Instead of just throwing up on them.
Absolutely.
And that's, I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the second part, when you're clear on your why and you know the lens through which you want to filter everything, so the next thing is, and it connects to what we just said, is who. When you know who you are so clearly that you tell me, look, my audience is, it doesn't even matter. It could be anything. It's a bunch of arts and crafters.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, I talk about empowering people through experiences. And so in the arts and crafts space, completely ridiculous maybe, but hey, I can talk to your arts and crafters about creating experiences with their crafts. Now, I know exactly who I am. I'm not bending to who you are. Right. I'm not trying to make myself something I'm not, but I'm listening to what you have, what I am about, and I bring the two together. So the bridge between who you are and who the audience is and who I am, when we can make that connection, that's where the real magic starts to happen. And it all connects back to my why. So now, as an event planner or a meeting manager, you say, oh wow, this person has paid attention to who my audience is, the topics that we talk about, in a new, fresh way. Because if my lens is always going to be, when you work with me, it's always going to be absolutely unique. So now, I am looking at your content through my lens. Now it's unique. It's always going to be unique that way. So it's not like I'm just going to talk to you about what you want to hear. No, I'm going to talk to you about what you want to hear through my experience, through my lens, through my passion, through my why.
And you know when they say the universe is always perfect timing, we wish we might just not see it.
Yeah.
What you offer and how you approach things, honestly, it couldn't be a better time because of the time we live in with social media, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody, not only does, and I tell this to people that are afraid to come on this show, I tell them all the time, not only, and I want your take on this, not only do people not expect perfection, they don't want it. They're tired of it. They're tired of the nonsense. Yeah. They're tired of the bullshit. Yeah. Give it to me real. Yeah. If that camera falls off the stand, let me turn it back on and put it back up because it's happened to them as well. Exactly. And now it's like, okay.
Yes.
Now, to me, that's the ultimate connection. And, I know you saw it. Over the years, if we go back 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, speakers literally knew exactly when they were going to take a breath in, when they were going to take a breath out, when they were going to lean on the podium. And listen, I understand their thought process, but we're not in that time.
Right.
We are in the reality world time. I love your take on this, man.
So there's two parts to this.
Okay.
One is there's a school of thought, an epidemic, I'll call it, of people out there who are saying what you're saying, but the way you're saying it is a little bit more, it's a fuller thought.
Okay.
People are taking what you're saying and doing this. They're not polishing what they're doing because they say, oh, real and raw. So what I see as an audience with a trained eye is garbage on the stage.
And just all over the place.
You're wasting my time. Stop copying whoever.
Yes.
Gary V. Gary V is Gary V. He's the only one. Let him be.
Right.
Who are you?
Right. Exactly.
Right? So now here's the thing.
Love that.
When you get to a certain level, sure, you can do off the cuff. But when you're building, Here's the thing.
Okay.
Any actor, any singer, they look natural, right? Because they've put in so much time to master that craft that it looks natural. Am I gonna? So when a speaker says to me, "Well, where should I breathe, or what should I do with my hands?" and my answer is like, "I don't know. Where should you breathe?
I love that.
Where should you put
But
your
I
hands?"
love that.
right?
That's real.
It's real, and yeah, sure. Maybe there are things that I'm gonna work on in performance to say, look, in this part, stop pacing around, stop moving this way, right? To be intentional, right? So really, it comes down to your way of being. If you want to be a sensational speaker, you have to clean up your mess.
Yes, I love that. That's a great way to put it. And like you made an example, right? Because I had to work on this myself, is the pacing.
Right.
Because I'm a high energy guy.
Right.
But what I learned is, looking back, is it took away from the power that I was trying to get across. In my own mind, right? In my own little frame, it was like I'm getting the power across.
Right.
But not really.
It doesn't translate.
No.
Exactly.
It translates as almost, I'm not going to say weakness, but it not as powerful.
Well, you step out of your power because unfortunately, like, you think you're in your power, but that's about you. And when you speak, there's a duality. It's as much about you standing in your power and in your light and in your glory as it is about shining the spotlight completely on them. And to do that, that's a real special skill.
So when you say shine a spotlight on them, give me more.
So there's two kinds of speakers. Okay. Both of them are incomplete. There's the speaker who does it for themselves. Okay. Who's like, oh, it's all about me. It's the glory, and I believe fully in that. And I encourage speakers, you must stand fully in your glory in order to give your audience, each one of them, each individual, permission to stand into their glory and to even know what that looks like. Okay. Right? If we're not fully in our glory, how do people even know what it looks like?
You're right.
If you never hear an amazing virtuosic violin player, how do you know what's even possible? Right.
Where do you start?
Exactly. Now, if you keep it all on that side and you're just the virtuosic speaker and you're speaking and it's amazing, well, great. So who does that serve? Just you. There are speakers who believe, oh no, it's not about me, it's only about the audience. Well, now here's the problem again, like I said, if I don't see you be if I don't see you be what you're saying, I don't believe you. You have a shelf life, you have a best before date. Okay. Because I'm gonna get the message, and then what's gonna attract me magnetically is someone who's actually being what you're saying. Okay. There's gonna be someone better out there. Okay. That's why people like Tony Robbins have built the following that he has, because he is a beast in his own right. Yes. He's not for everybody, and that's okay. No. Right? But he is fully in his own power. Yeah. So the best speakers are the ones who understand, and Tony is a great example. He understands fully his own power, and he understands who his audience is and delivers fully. It's all about the audience, and at the same time, he knows that he has to be whole and complete and full in his way of being in order to serve people fully. Yes. So the best speakers, like I said, there's a duality. You stand completely in your glory, in your power, that you know who you are, you know your why, you know who you are, you know who they are. Okay. And you bring all of that together so that you shine. While you're standing in the spotlight, you are inviting people not only into your spotlight, but into their own spotlight.
Yeah, I like that.
Because enrolling people into their own vision is really the only thing we can do. I can't convince you to enroll into my own vision of what my thing is in my life. What I can do is convince you that maybe I see something bigger for you. Right. Hey, you think you're going to make $1 million this year? Well, I think you might actually make 5 this year. I think you should start a foundation to help young people, right? And you might not have thought that. Well, now I'm shining the spotlight on you, right? But at the same time, I'm showing you that I'm standing in my power and saying, look, there's something more here. So now you're affected. There's a magnetic attraction between us that says, wow, you care so much about me. You're so confident in yourself that you're going to just give it away, right? That is when that real magnetic attraction, and a magnet can attract.
Or yes. And it's interesting, because I've never thought of it in those dynamics, right? You usually only think of it in one way or the other. Right. And you're right. I mean, it's a dance. Absolutely. It's a dance. Absolutely. And that, I love that. Now, when you have a seasoned speaker come to you, right? and obviously they're in their ways. And they've been successful.
Absolutely.
So now you have this big obstacle to get through because you've seen that person, him or her, and you're like, it could be so much better. What do we do? Like, how do you even approach that? And I know it's a case by case thing.
It's case by case, and it is a bit of a challenge because the other epidemic with speakers is speakers have I know-itis.
Okay.
But I know what I offer, and I know, look, I've done all these engagements, and I'm really good. I just want you to get me more gigs.
Right. And
my answer right away is this. If you don't have as many gigs as you want, then you're not as good as you think you are.
And that's the truth.
Period.
That's the real. I mean, that's the real.
Sorry.
No,
not sorry.
But that's the real. That's what's missing. Like, because that's the real. Now, here's the thing. If I'm that speaker and I say to you, I want you to get me more gigs, and that's your reply, if I reply any other way than you're right, I'm not being honest. I'm running.
Right.
I'm running.
And
love that.
From my perspective, you're not up to something big enough.
Right.
Because unfortunately, you're only in it for your own spotlight.
Right. And that response, other than, you know what, man, you're right, is based upon, manifested in fear.
Absolutely.
And you can't win, right? You stopped growing.
Absolutely.
So now you're dying.
Right.
And the market says you're dying and you're not going to be booking those gigs like you thought. And I think one of the things that I want to get your message out there is because there are so many seasoned professional speakers that have done very well, right, over the time. But here's what they have to understand the times that they're living in, right? And again, we're going to talk about Gary. I'll mention Gary Vee because he makes a great point. Stop marketing in 2008 when we're in 2017.
Right.
Stop doing business in 2005 when we're in 2017.
Right.
And we're halfway through it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I see you bring to the table is we're going to do this in 2017.
Right.
And let me ask you, how many coaches, speakers that you see over that are still marketing themselves the same way, right? And telling you that they can create results and this and that, business coaches, life coaches, speaker coaches. And then when you go on their social media, there's nothing there.
Right.
How can you say that you're going to do the best for that person when you're not even using the most powerful tools that are here?
Exactly.
Is that, you see where I'm going?
And so here's the thing. Coming from a theater and a music, a production background, I started looking at it, even in sports. Michael Jackson, I always use this example because it's the most extreme example I can give. But fill in the blank, your favorite artist. Why did Michael Jackson have Quincy Jones for years and other amazing producers behind them? Why does Celine Dion need David Foster behind her? They're great. They're amazing at what they do, but they recognize that if they want to stay current and cutting edge and to continue to evolve, they need the man behind the curtain or the woman behind the curtain, right? Okay. Because behind, the behind every star, there is a village of people. Look, God bless her, Britney Spears. God bless her. But the team behind her is the real success. Yeah. So can you imagine, and most people always say, oh yeah, you're right when you say this. Can you imagine if that team was behind Christina Aguilera instead of Britney Spears? She just lucked out and got that team. Yeah, right. Hello. Yeah. I mean, the landscape of music would be very different. Yeah. Let's look at it a different way. Let's imagine another superstar, Madonna, if she kept putting out the same album over and over and over again. And this is what speakers are doing. Yes. They're putting out the same talk over because they had success once or 20 times or 100 times. It doesn't matter. You aren't current anymore. The moment it's done, it's done. And you want to know something? I know this for a fact. I know it to be a fact because I studied them, right? Getting going. Back 15 years ago, 20 years ago, speakers literally, some of the highest paid speakers, successful people that we know, if I said their name, we'd all know, bragged about
they in 12 years they never did any change to their keynote. I mean, they just literally went from town to town, the road warrior, and did the same thing over and over and over. Now for me, as a creative person, first of all, that's hell. That's hell on earth, right? Because oh my God, it'd make me crazy. But secondly, how do you really say you're giving value when you know, now as an artist, right? As a creative person that has a real history of the arts, right? How does that sit with you? Like how does that?
So there's two sides to this. So let's take one of the most successful shows in musical history, Phantom of the Opera.
Okay.
Been around for years and years and years now, right? Even though it is now a static, for the most part, thing, there are still changes made here and there to the piece, based on who is performing in it, based on how things change, right? Les Mis, which has been around again for many, many years, you know, it was maybe 15, 20 years ago, they said, oh, we're going to cut off like 20 minutes of it, you know, because they wanted to keep it current. So again, instead of making the actual talk the static thing, what if it's your lens that is the more static thing? Again,
talk about it.
So the lens is, again, like is your brand. The lens through which you filter everything through is always the same. Or it evolves a little bit more slowly, right? Yeah. But the talk, depending on who's in front of you, you pay attention. You are present with your audience in that moment. Now, when you've tested something and it works, sure, you're going to continue to do it. But if you're going to do it word for word every single time, where's the life in it?
I know.
There's no life, right? There's no reality in that anymore, right? So even for those performers who have to do 8 shows a week on Broadway, there's still something fresh that comes to it. And these people, 8 shows a week for years on end. I have many friends who are doing shows all across the country, and they find new life every time. Because you make that connection with the audience. There's a different energy. You have a different moment with someone on stage all the time. So why can't we apply those principles to speaking also? And so in that respect, you have to keep checking back in. Again, it's way of being. You go through your talk and say, do I still believe this? You know, Gary Vee is so successful at what he does right now because he says what he believes in that moment. And I'm not a big follower, to be honest, but I know enough of his stuff and I've seen enough of his stuff that he will admit if he's wrong and say, you know what, I used to think this, now I don't think that anymore. That's crazy.
And he just keeps it so authentic.
Exactly.
He really does.
It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to change your mind.
It's normal. Like, it's life.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And so bringing in that humanity into your talk, it changes the game for people because they recognize then. So normally when I work with someone on a talk, generally because of my theater background, I say we're going to split the talk into 3 acts. In Act 3, almost always, Act 3 is the call to action. Every talk, even if you're not selling something, you're always selling. And what is the call to action? And that goes basically, if we said, you know, we start with our why, we figure out who, the next step, and it's right below the waterline, is what. And what is not the content? What do you want them to do about it? When you charge your audience with a call to action of some sort and say, well, now this is what I want you to do about it. This is the gift I'm going to give you. I want you to take action. And taking action isn't necessarily to buy my product. But how do I internalize this? How do I make this message, take this message and become the ambassador of this message? So I'm going to go out and tell all those people out there about it. When you have a clear what, a clear call to action, now we're talking, now we're cooking. Now the waterline is boiling, right? Because people get excited. Like, oh, he's giving me something to do, or she's giving me a call to action that I can internalize and do something to make a positive change in my life. And the best thing about this is I invite people to create transformation in the moment. Don't promise that, you know, you're going to create transformation. Well, what about right now? I always say, well, how about now? How about you create
real practical
transformation right now?
Yeah.
You can create, some people, I work with a lot of TED speakers. And there's a TEDx coming up in a couple of weeks actually, and I say to them, you know, in 18 minutes, you can change the world. And some of them come to me and say, oh, I can't. I mean, it's such a big topic, and I don't, I said, no, then you're thinking about it the wrong way. Pick one thing that you want to actually leave them with, that gift, and talk about it over and over and over again for 18 minutes, and they will then get it.
So is it a different approach if it's a TED Talk versus an hour keynote?
No, I would say, though, in a TED Talk...
For you.
Yeah, in a TED Talk, I think what you want to do is really... So a TED Talk is very idea-driven.
Okay.
Whereas a keynote might not necessarily be idea-driven because it's more about, like, you have to deliver content or whatever it is that you want to deliver in that keynote. Inspire, whatever that is. Whereas a TED Talk, I almost would say it's like all about imagination and sparking that imagination in your audience so that they think, huh, that they raise their eyebrow a little bit. That's what you want to happen in a TED Talk. Right. And then what? I always say, so what? So you did a TED Talk, great. Right. And now what?
Exactly.
Right. Because people think, well, now I did a TED, now I'm going to get all these bookings. I'm like, no, you're not. Actually, you need to do something.
It's like someone saying I did a YouTube video, and now it's going to go viral.
Right, exactly. You have to do something with it. And most importantly, in the talk itself, you have to create the space for people to actually take action. And that action has to be so bite-sized and so tangible for them that they're going to go out and actually make a change in their life. Or decide to, and like I say, especially in TED Talks and shorter talks, I like to say, what you're doing as a speaker is you are enrolling ambassadors.
Yeah, I love that. See, I never heard that, right? And I love that. I love that.
And it's so simple, because all of a sudden it changes the way you approach the talk.
Okay.
You're not trying to dispense information. You're not trying to educate or teach anybody. If I want to be taught something, I'll go to YouTube. I'll go to Google. They've got the market covered on that. Right? When I want to learn something, exactly, for free.
Right.
So now what do you bring to the table that is different? And it's your unique perspective and your experience and how you connect with me.
Okay.
So now your job as a speaker is to get me to want to basically follow you because you believe so much in me that you are taking a stand for me in the audience and for all the people that I'm connected to. When you show me and prove to me as a speaker that you're in it for me and my vision and my life, well, now I'm kind of like, I don't know who this guy is, but I need to introduce him. I need to buy his program. I need to connect him.
You're creating a ride or die tribe.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean,
absolutely. But you as a speaker, I don't want anything from you. What I want from you, the audience, is to whatever, fill in the blank, live your best life. I want you to live the biggest vision of yourself. I want you to be happy and healthy and whole.
Okay.
How many speakers go around saying things like that, sharing that kind of a message, right? And even some of the inspirational, everyone's a motivational speaker nowadays, right? I have, every week I have at least one person saying, I want to be the next Tony Robbins. I'm like, well, that spot's taken, so what do you want to be now?
Exactly. We
don't need another.
You can't, and they can't.
And what are you going to motivate me to do, really?
And also, they forget or they don't realize that, he's been doing this 40 years. 40 years. Yeah. And I believe, personally, by studying so many of these guys for so long, that he's at the top of the food chain because and one of the quotes, things that he talks about, and I think it's so key, is he says he's constantly, how does he stay relevant? Because he's constantly depositing into his escrow account so he can always withdraw anytime he wants.
Right.
And that's the difference.
His cup is so full.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Always. And that's why he's a magnet and he's so attractive.
But let's map back to what you said originally. Why is that? You know why that is? Because he followed his passion. His why was much bigger than him.
Right.
So if you took Tony Robbins and you said, I want you to speak, I want you to go on the Food Channel and speak about this recipe book, he's not going to be Tony Robbins.
Well, look, and is that right? Yeah, here's the perfect example, because he's been in a smattering of movies.
Right.
And they were all terrible.
Right.
I mean, it was okay.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's Tony Robbins.
But he's out of his element.
Out of his element.
Yeah.
He wasn't directed properly, maybe. And it's not his passion.
Yes.
His passion is not to bring these fictitious characters to life.
Right.
His passion is to overflow so much that it pours into you, that you just want to rip your shirt off and shake and bounce and all this stuff, right?
Yes.
That's who he is.
And think about it, right? He's so successful that he tours like a rock star because that's his oxygen.
Right.
Right? When he gets on stage.
About it like that too.
Yeah, because it's so true. I think he said, I forget what it is, like 20 hours the first day, like just
crazy.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then he mapped the miles before. It's just craziness, right? But it's not, because he found his oxygen so early.
Right.
And that's ultimately what you said coming out of the gates today.
Yeah.
Find your oxygen
Early.
right?
Yeah.
Where's your oxygen?
And the beauty is, it's never too late.
No.
So,
no.
Because, look, no one can erase from moment zero till now.
Yes.
So the right time is the moment that you decide,
Yes.
now I'm going to start to breathe my oxygen, and I'm
Right.
going to breathe it so deeply that people are going to be just knocked out by it.
Exactly.
And the moment you decide that,
Love that.
that's when you come to life.
And here's the other thing I'm going to highlight and circle and put neon signs around what you said is it's never too late. And here's the other reason why it's never too late. Because last year, you weren't the person you are today. 5 years ago, you're not the... So it wasn't your time.
Right.
Right? And that's okay.
Right.
Instead of beating yourself up over it and saying that you don't deserve it, understand that it wasn't your time, right? You weren't ready.
Right.
You weren't that person.
And that's
you
okay.
didn't get through that struggle.
Right.
Right? So
And you look back and you say thank you
yes.
to history.
Yes.
And now you say, okay, and here I am now.
Yes.
Now, on the other side of that, because there's always duality, I always invite speakers to say, well, how about now?
Right.
Because I have a lot
Right.
of people who say to me, David,
Yes.
in when I have the money, when I have the this,
When I have the
I'm
time,
ready,
when-
next year I'll be a speaker, in 5 years I'll be, and I'm like, well, no, that's a mental block. That
Right.
you are a speaker. You've been a speaker the moment you showed up in this world. In fact, babies are really effective speakers because babies say and experience what they want, and they let us know what they want. And if we don't pay attention, they get louder.
Right,
about it,
right.
And so, when did we lose that?
Right.
You know, so if you have something to say, it's time to say it. And what, like you said, what better time? Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of these tools are available to us. Now imagine when you get to that source why of what it is that you're really up to in your life, and you figure out and you clean up the mess of your life, and you figure out, because it's not a mess, because your mess is your message, all these colloquialisms, right? When you figure that out, now all of a sudden people start to listen and pay attention. So for a long time, even as a speaker coach, and I hate calling myself that because there's so many bad ones out there, but I started to say, okay, well, what do I offer that's different? And I started to be afraid of saying, like, I believe that a lot of the trainings and the learning out there is not effective. And that's scary to say that.
There's not value. You're saying that there's not value.
Let me tell you something, a little inside scoop.
Yeah.
One of the biggest earners right now in the entrepreneur space is a person who is selling speaking training.
Okay.
Pushing like 8 figures.
Wow.
But it's a blueprint system.
Okay.
That to me is crazy.
Okay.
Because that blueprint cannot work for everybody. It just can't.
There's no cookie cutter.
Right.
Right.
So as soon as I started saying that, people started to respond
And
to me.
resonate.
Absolutely.
Because it's real.
But it was scary.
Yeah, right.
Because I thought, I'm going against some big names here. Who do I think I am? But the reality is, look, I do have 25 years and 41 years of life of experience that I see it in a different way. And I have created success for every single person that I've worked with and for, and all the students that I've worked with and for throughout my life.
Well, and the other thing too that you bring to the table that I don't know, I can't even name any big speakers that I know of. That what you bring to the table is that amazing creativity, because it maps back right to the art world, to the real stage, right, to performing arts.
It is performing,
you can't. That's the ultimate.
Absolutely.
So now you can, if you figured out a way, right, to take that public speaker, and I'm going to use that word, that title, to now infuse your wisdom with performing arts. And I'll give you a great example. I've been a football fan. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I know this to be a fact. One of the greatest receivers of all time, I don't care what anybody else thinks, Lynn Swann from the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was the first wide receiver to ever win an MVP, 1980 Super Bowl. All that being said, you know what took him to the next level? He took ballet. He took ballet, and it took him to that next level. And I tie that in because that's what you can bring to you can show, right, this person that dances in a certain way that if you now infuse ballet or does a finesse.
Absolutely.
Finesse.
And here's the beauty
does that work?
Absolutely.
I mean,
so the beauty of it is this.
Yeah.
It could be, so normally when because I'm sure a lot of people out there in the audience are thinking, oh, but I'm not a performer and I don't, I know all this, right?
Yeah.
And so I say this, it doesn't matter the medium. It's whatever it is that resonates with you.
Right.
I figure out what is so unique to you, we bring that to life in an experience. So this morning I was speaking to a friend of mine who's doing a talk in a couple of days. Okay. And she's a shaman, and she was invited to speak. She was invited to speak at a financial
There's
thing.
A
it was a stretch.
I mean,
the reason she was invited to speak to all these corporate people in finance, basically, was that one of the people, it's their 60th birthday, and they wanted to acknowledge. And he is interested in
her
culture, shamanism.
Okay.
They wanted,
okay.
right.
Okay.
So she was like, okay, so I'm going to do this, I'm going to do an intro, and I'm going to give some content, and I'm going to teach them some things. I'm like, none of your business. They are there to have a good time.
Right.
So instead, how about we turn the whole experience, 40 minutes, into a celebration where she's going to make the guy who's turning 60, she's going to make him the chief, the warrior. And she's going to seat him at the front of the audience, and the whole first part is going to be like a celebration where she's going to sing and do spoken word and poetry, all about sort of native, and it'll all connect to this whole shamanism roots. Then she's going to talk about, because this is so interesting, in order to get to celebration, let's think about the concept of Thanksgiving, right? To get to celebration, there's pain. Right. Celebration doesn't just happen easily, right? People go through a journey. So now in her act 2, she's going to explain the journey of this guy through 60 years. Imagine what it took for him to get there. Now, as an audience member, I'm thinking like, wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, like now I'm acknowledging and honoring him. Right. And in her final parts, what she's going to do is she's going to teach the audience how to create an experience and how to acknowledge him in a Native American way through using tobacco ties. And so now all of a sudden, the whole talk is going to be sort of within this historic content, Native American historical perspective, but at the same time, the whole time for 40 minutes, we've acknowledged this guy and his birthday.
I got to ask you this, right? And this is the first time I've heard the story, so I want you, from what she presented to you to what you guys created, what's the difference in her? That's what I want to know, right? Because that's the real, right?
Way of being. So in the beginning, she came to me and she was like, I have to do this, and I think this is what I'm going to do, and it's going to be 5 minutes of this and 15 minutes of that, and content, and I want them to know this, and people have this romanticized vision of what Native America was, and all this stuff. And then at the end, it was like, wow, this is big, and I had a dream about this actually a few years ago. This is what she actually said, and I know this is what I need to step into, and I see how this is going to be a repeatable, this is going to be my thing. This is
her theme. This is her, this is what she
can turn this, and it really is a performance.
Yes.
She can create this and replicate it over and over again in her unique way, but it is her unique way. She's using her way, her shamanism, her understanding of Native America, and creating something that is so unique. She's not teaching me. She's not telling me, oh, well, you people don't understand what it was to be Native American. You don't understand the war that they went through. But I can't. I don't know that connection, right? I know me. I know my experience. So I can connect to my own pain. So basically the difference was she lit up. Her way of being was on fire. She became, that was her identity.
Yes. That was, and I want you to speak on that word that you just spoke about, because I think it's misunderstood. Mm-hmm. It's a scary thing. And I think when we're talking in the public speaking world, people are not connected to it, and if you're not connected to it, you're missing the whole thing. Performance. It's a performance.
Absolutely.
It's your story. It's who you are. But speak on that. How important is it to understand and to embrace that word?
So, and what is a performance anyway?
Right.
So for me, performance means it is intentional. It's intention embodied.
With
right?
with that passion. We are giving a performance right now
Absolutely.
because we were so in the moment.
Right.
It's so passionate for both of us, right? That, and I want to keep pulling layers out, right? And learning more. So we're creating a performance. This is a performance.
Not rehearsed.
No.
Not
Authentic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's authentic. But we're showing up as big as we possibly can because we know that you know the message, I know the message is so big it'll pull people.
I love that. And
right?
so speak on that, right? It's when people think of performance, they think of choreographed, they think of your world back in the day, right? But shine light on that from you.
So think about
I love it.
your favorite movies or whatever. I mean, they're all performances, but you get sucked in. You get. Right now, I'm a fan of Man in the High Castle on Amazon, and The Crown was another one, the Netflix series. You watch these actors, and you could swear that the lead of The Crown is the Queen at 19. You could swear it.
Yeah.
You could swear these people in Man in the High Castle are like living in this Nazi Germany that has spilled over into the 60s, right? It's so fascinating to see it. They are so present. That idea is so big and so real to them. They're not teaching me. They're not dispensing information. They're being it. They're being it so deeply, and that's what performance is. When you can be it so deeply. Babies perform all day long, whether you like it or not. That's what they do. They perform because what they are is they're just being.
Yes.
We, all of a sudden now, as we get older, we're like, okay, as speakers, I need to do this and I need to do that, and we put on all these layers. Oh, I have to do it this way, I have to do it that way. No, you need to be. When you can take off all the layers, all the dirt, and you can show up and you are being so powerful, that's when things like Tony Robbins happen. That's when a Gary Vee happens, right?
Yes.
That's when these magnetic speakers show up and just blow it out of the water.
And that's where it maps back to the main word that we started with, unforgettable.
Absolutely.
Right? Unforgettable.
Look, and I always joke, I kind of joke about this. I grew up Catholic, right?
Right.
So, and I always say, one of the greatest speakers and potentially, written about people of all time, Jesus.
Right.
Whether it was real or not is besides the point. The fact of the matter is 2,000 plus years later, he still has a bestseller.
Right. Who's relevant? Right. Right.
So the fact of the matter is this person, whatever he was or was not, spoke so deeply about something that...
And I'll give you another example, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's 72, 73, 76, I'm not sure. When did Bruce Lee die?
Right.
And how,
Legacy.
right? Because he came from that authenticity. He came from his real. He came from who he was. And he shared it without apology.
Yeah.
Right? And
unapologetic is a big one.
Right.
Look at all the greats. Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, all of the greats in the world. All of them. Even great in a different way, like I mentioned earlier, Elon Musk or Richard Branson. The greats share unapologetically. They share audaciously. They share it's real for themselves.
Yes.
Always. Right?
Yes. And they know who they are, and they're okay with it, and they embrace it. I love that. I love that thought. And being, if you're not striving to be unforgettable, then what are you doing?
What is the point?
Then what are you
wasting
doing?
Time here.
Right?
We're wasting time.
Right. What are you doing? And also, we talked about that word legacy, and I always say this in my post, is if you're not building and focused on a legacy, then why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, why? What is the point?
Because we each have potential to have a legacy. All of the saints, all of the people that we've remembered over history, they have left a legacy. Look at how amazing Martin Luther King's legacy lives on daily through people.
Yes.
They quote him all the time, right?
He has his own day.
Exactly, right? Like, we should all be thinking as big as that. Not because it's like it's about me. No, but because look at how you can add to the world.
And let's make a point here, right? Because you just said something so major golden nugget. It's not about you. See, nobody can get to that level if it is about them. Right. It's impossible. Right. It's just the way the universe works. We don't make the rules.
Right.
We just got to learn how to play within the rules. Right. So Martin Luther King couldn't be who he is if it was all about him. It just doesn't work that way.
His vision was so big. This is
Right.
the beauty about it. His vision was so big that he filled into that vision.
Yes.
And became this like mega magnet.
Yes.
Right? And all of the greats, you look
Yes.
at all of them in in sports, in music, in history, whatever
Yes.
it is, religion, whatever
Yes.
it is. That's what they did. The vision was so big of their life that they grew into it. They spoke into it. And that's the
Right.
other important thing. Speakers, start speaking now. Like, start speaking. Don't write it. Don't think about it.
Yes.
Talk about it
Action.
on
Do it.
Facebook. Do the lives. Do the whatever
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
Tell your friends, what do you really want to say? I say this a lot with my speakers. They'll show me these beautifully crafted paragraphs and this and that, and I'll say to them, what do you really want to say here?
Right.
Oh, well, if I could really say what I wanted to say, I would say this. And I said, well, why aren't you saying that?
Right.
No, I don't want you to get yourself sued. I don't want you to, within reason,
Right.
just say what you want to say. That impacts people.
Yes.
Nothing else does.
And not only does it impact people, because we're talking about brands and we're talking about tribes. That's the world we live in. It attracts the right people for you, right? The right people for me that connect with me is not going to be the same as somebody else, right? All the time.
Yeah.
So it takes all the guesswork out, right? And it just and I it keeps it so real and authentic. And the times we live in, honestly, there needs to be more of you.
Absolutely.
Honestly, there needs to be
Yeah.
more of you, because you're embracing the 2017,
Right.
2027,
Whatever.
right?
Yeah.
You know,
the right now,
Right,
always.
right.
It's always right now.
it is
Always.
It's so interesting. And one of the things that I found out over the last year or so with Monster Motivator TV is some of the people that were the most afraid to come on, right? Now are doing their own live streams.
Absolutely.
They're doing their own selfies.
Oh, you unleashed the
Well,
monster. You unleashed the
all we
giant,
did was
right?
turn on the lights, and they looked under the bed, and there's no monster.
Exactly.
And that's
Well, like I said, that's fear.
yes.
And so if you look at fear instead as opportunity, because
Yes.
what's on the other side? Am I going to die? Are there going to be holes? Is there going to be bleeding?
Right.
No? Okay, well then I guess I can do this.
Right,
We're
right.
not asking you to jump out of an airplane.
No.
We're asking
No.
you to speak into yourself.
Yes.
Speak so that other people can receive the blessing, the benefit of what it is that you're here for.
Yeah, it's
And
so
when
true.
you really figure out and start to lean into, well, this is what I want to create for the world, things start to, it gets exciting.
And not only that, I'm going to speak from the real, right? From my history, my background. So when I came out here in 2008, right, summer of 2008, I didn't know what business I was going to do, but I made a deal with myself. If I'm going to relocate from New Jersey, come out here and not know anybody, the next business I'm going to do is going to be passion related first, profit second, right? And I never went down that road before because it was a scary thing.
Of course.
So I bought a struggling sports nutrition store in November 16th, 2008, North County, San Diego. I was in Point Loma. I didn't even know what North County was. I had no idea, right? But I saw things that they weren't doing in the worst economy, right, that we've known since the Depression. And I saw things that I thought they weren't doing that I thought if I implemented could help. By 2011, we tripled the numbers, and by 2012, I built enough equity and I sold it. And I'm going to tell you, one of the biggest things that was the turning point for me is I literally, once I got the store to where I could leave it, right, on a consistent basis, I literally went out to personal training studios, dojos, yoga studios, and said to them, I will do a free nutritional seminar talk for your people, right? And I just did that everywhere, and that, right, I mean,
Because you had a big vision. You were on fire.
but that
had something
but that
that was-
medium, right, is the live and in person. It's a game changer.
Absolutely.
When you can embrace it and learn how to do that in an effective way.
Absolutely.
So I'm speaking from it. Literally changed my business
Absolutely.
in the worst economy ever since the Depression.
Look, and even more so now,
Yeah.
with all of the beautiful tools and the internet.
Right.
Imagine when you go and speak to people one-on-one, and I always say it's one-on-one, even
Right.
if there's 1,000
Exactly,
people. All
exactly.
you have to focus on is every single
Right.
one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
And each one of them will receive you if you are overflowing in a way that is authentic and real.
That's it.
So, okay, well, there's nothing You know, I had an ad in a magazine recently, and my little joke to the magazine, because it was all about digital, was be the funnel. Because the magazine was about digital. And I turned it up on its head, and I'm like, no, you are the funnel.
Love it.
And instead of the funnel coming like this to you, when you're a speaker, the funnel goes this way.
It's just so,
Right.
it illuminates,
Exactly.
right? But because it's energy,
Right.
And it's so funny that
It's tangible.
And you know what's interesting? We talk about Gary Vee, right? And I do follow him.
Yeah.
But he just had a Daily V, which is his reality thing.
Yeah.
And the lady was there with her business partners, and long story short, she tried to get her husband these really great underwear and couldn't find them. She saw a void in the market and said, hey, I think I could do this on a high-end silk boxer underwear for men. Here's what I think I could do. So she started to move in that direction. She met with Gary and his team and wanted to see what his VaynerMedia could do for them. In a half hour, he went from, okay, we do digital, we can do this, we can do this, to at the very end, he says to her, have you ever thought about you as the brand? Have you ever thought about you creating you as the reality? He says, you will kill. Now, he's going completely against what his company, like, he just said, you have to you have to show you. You're the golden egg here.
And in most, not in all, because there are some situations where it is
Sure.
for business.
No
and
question.
whatever,
No
but
question.
Nowadays,
Yes.
for most people,
Amen.
you are the key.
Amen.
You are what you've been waiting for this whole time.
Right. And here's the other thing. Here's the other so important part of this. Even if we're not talking about entrepreneurs, even if we're talking about employees and corporate, there's no, if you think that your resume means anything anymore, you're way behind. It's all social media.
Absolutely.
Right? So when a company looks at you versus those 15 other people, they're looking at, if you don't think they're looking at your social media, you're crazy.
Look, 20 years ago when I was interviewing, I have a very interesting resume. It's a long, colorful resume. I got at least 10 of the jobs that I've had based on two things. One, the fact that I worked for Club Med.
Okay.
Two, the fact that I was a scuba diver. When I went into those interviews, all of them, and nothing had to do, none of them were travel jobs, none of them were nothing
There was
like
no
that.
connection.
No. So these were just getting myself through school jobs, whatever, right? As soon as they saw on my resume, oh, you did this? Oh, you were a scuba diver? The entire interview was about that, and it was connection.
Yes.
And the funnel went that way. And we shared energy, and they're like, I want to work with this person. Let me give you another example. You know, as a theater producer, we put on all sorts of shows, and I had the luck to sit on the other side of the table to audition people, and that is a lot of fun and crazy at the same time. And people would come in, and the auditioning people is a really fascinating experience because they want something from you, and if someone showed up sensational in their talent and they had a nasty temper, or you weren't sure if they were a diva, or not interested.
Right? It just
If you
shut
showed
down.
up just real, coachable, workable, if I gave you a direction, you took it on, and you seemed like you were fun to work with and enjoyable, I would 99 times out of 100 hire that person over the person who came in and was like a dead ringer.
I think you're so right. And when you look at successful people, right, successful coaches in the sports world, it's, you know, in football, the Patriots have the greatest run in the last 20 years or whatever it was, and there's a known, when you walk through those doors, you're a team, and you're part of a team, and you have a little thing to do. You're not there. If you think you're a superstar, we don't want you. Right? We don't want you, because it becomes toxic. It becomes toxic.
So it's all about you. When you are the superstar, the diva, the whatever, right? Again, so same with speakers. When it becomes all about you, okay, you have a shelf life. You have a best before date.
Right.
When you make it, I'm good at what I do, and I have a vision that will spill over and affect you and give you something, well, now we're up to something. Now we can create something out
You have
of
a
that.
real foundation.
There's a
For, like you said,
foundation.
long term, right?
Absolutely.
And keep building on, keep building on.
And staying present, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
where you just because when you were talking about your business and how you turned it around in a worst economy, I mean, really, what I believe that you did is, and there's a lot to it, but you were present to what was happening, and you said, okay, how about if we try this?
Right.
You didn't come in with a blueprint.
No.
You didn't come in with like, this is what's going to work. No one knew what was going to work in that time. We had to reinvent it.
Constantly.
All the time.
Over and over.
And what was interesting probably is that what worked the most was like that human connection and going out for the business.
Everything.
Right?
It was inside the store and outside. We had to separate ourselves from the internet, right? Because we were only selling through the store. We only had a 5 to 10 mile radius.
Right.
So what are we going to do? So you're right. You had to figure out, wait a minute, okay, it's 2008. How do we do this, right? And how do we separate ourselves? And little things that it started to catch on. Anytime you bought a product, we would write down on the top of it with a Sharpie when to take it, how much to take. And it got to a point where people were like, I'm here to see Dave. They said you were going to write on top of it. Yeah. You know?
Right?
So it became
such a small thing. It's free to do that.
Right.
I look at speakers after they do their gigs and they have to get on their next flight and that's it, or take a couple of pictures and whatever.
It's become robotic.
You've got to be shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yes.
Because otherwise, who's going to book you?
And not just that. And if you don't understand that, but embrace it,
absolutely.
Again, you have a shelf life.
Right.
You have that expiration.
Because at the end of the day, if you have no audience, you are not a speaker.
Right.
And your audience, so you have one shot with an audience.
Right.
Okay, because either they're going to see you and they're going to be like, wow, that was amazing, and I'm going to tell everybody about you, or the next time that they see your name come up on a docket or whatever it is, the schedule, they're going to say, oh no, let's go to lunch, let's skip that live, let's, whatever. You have one shot.
Yeah.
So how quickly are you going to go through your 7 billion or 8 billion people? How quickly?
Right.
You have a shelf life. Now, none of us are ever going to get to all 7, 8 billion, right? But even like once you burn out your audience, well then what?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I don't think speakers really understand the gravity of, you really do have one shot. Do you want to come out as a hack? Do you want to come out sort of like, it's good enough for now? And I'm like, no, you're selling yourself short. You're saying that I'm still a mess and whatever. I'm just gonna, no, like let's work on it. Let's figure out what is the message. What is that you really want to put out in the world? You are ready now. The minute you decide that you're ready to put that out there, you are ready. And people will be attracted to that.
It's so true. It becomes effortless.
Absolutely.
Right? It becomes effortless. People are wondering, how does a Gary Vee book $100 million or $100,000 gig?
Right.
Because it's effortless now, because he is who he is.
Exactly.
And not only that, what you're teaching people too is become bulletproof.
Absolutely.
When you put it out there,
unmessable
right?
is what I call it.
Yeah,
right? That's it.
That's it. It's awesome. Now I know you have a few things coming up.
Yeah.
That I want you to talk about, because we talked about it a little bit before we went on. So that's some cool stuff, man.
Yeah. So when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm going to be different than everybody out there. Most speaker coaches, not most, but a lot of speaker coaches in the internet world are working in big groups. And I said, no, I don't want to be that. I'm going to only work one-on-one with people. Okay. Because I think that if you really want to go to the next level with your speaking, you do need to have a one-on-one relationship with someone for the longer term.
Okay.
Well, so the problem is that there's only so much of me, and that makes it very difficult
to scale too.
And what I'm starting to realize is the whole way of being piece, and the why, the who, and the what, I can do that in a small group setting. So one of the other things that I've been really good at in my life is creating amazing experiences. So I am just back from a cruise, and we are creating in September an experience called the Speaker Experience at Sea. And what it is 5 days where you are fully immersed in speaking, enrollment and engagement, and building authority. Learning how from the bottom up, from the why up, how to be as a speaker, how to show up, what is that lens through which you should filter everything, how do you get engagement, how do you engage with strangers, because we're going to be stopping in ports, cities that you've never been to, and so all of a sudden, when you're a tourist, you do things like you've never done before.
Exactly. You feel free.
So I'm going to give you that freedom and some challenges in these locations to enroll and to engage with people like you would never engage in your hometown, to understand, to unlock what's available to you as a speaker. On the days at sea, we're going to have coaching to work on TED style, short talks, and we'll be able to present those to each other. And you're going to get, basically what I'm saying is, it's kind of like a TED conference meet Hollywood, a Hollywood Week, American Idol Hollywood Week style thing, where you're going to get the feedback from me right away and to figure it out and to work all of that together. So what that will give you is the basis of what the speaker lens is that you want to build your enterprise on, who you are, what you want to charge the world with in terms of like what the gift is you want to give them, and how you want to enroll people as ambassadors. So that is coming up in September. It's about to launch online. I literally just created this in the last few days, the websites for it and everything. So that's at www.speakerexperienceatsea.com.
And you're going to be able to post all that when we get off.
Absolutely.
And we reshare.
Yeah, I'll post that.
We'll be able to post all that. And I do know before we do jump off, we had some people jump on that you're bringing the heat, man. Bringing the heat. So we have Shelly, she was just in. She says hello. Marion, the Monster Moderator, she says hello. Stephanie's on. What else anything else that I didn't talk about that you want to share before we do jump off?
So I think the biggest thing that I could say to anyone out there who's thinking about being a speaker is, look, you are ready right now.
Okay.
Make the decision.
Okay.
Decide for yourself that you are good enough, that you are ready because you say so.
Okay.
And then invest in yourself and invest in someone like me who sees, and I'm not saying I'm the right fit for everybody,
right,
but who sees your full potential or what you don't actually see. And have that person pour into you so that you can become the best speaker, the best messenger that you can be. I always tell people, and they always laugh at this actually, is, if I was to create a talk, when I create a talk, I have people that help me with that.
Right.
Because we have blind spots.
Right. And it's just hard to see the picture inside the frame.
You can't.
Yeah.
Right? So find that role. You don't have to do this by yourself. And if you're doing it by yourself, you're limited.
Yes.
When I see you as a speaker, 99% of you, I see you and I'm like, oh, that's too bad. I see 40%, 30%, 50%, maybe 60%. Well, what's left in that dark area?
Yes.
Don't you want to figure out what that is? Don't you want to commit to yourself to saying, like, there is more I have to deliver, and I'm ready to deliver my message in a way that will transform my audiences forever, and that they will follow me no matter what I'm going to speak about in the future. That you enroll that audience to be truly the ambassadors of your message, and more importantly, to be the ambassadors of their own message, because that is powerful. When you give someone the gift of encouragement, of being encouraged to be the best self for themselves, that's powerful. We don't have enough of that in the world nowadays. And as a speaker, we have the gift to be able to do that.
I love that. And you touched on something I want to just make sure we highlight is, and I used to say this in my sports nutrition store, I'd help people with their products and help them towards their goal. And then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, oh, wait a minute. I go, and they say, well, I didn't realize it was going to be $50 for this protein. And I would say to them, listen, if you can find a better investment, let me know.
Right.
And it's you.
Simple.
There's not a more powerful
and
investment.
$50, how much? I mean, how many other things do we spend $50 on or whatever?
Exactly.
In a day,
But even that, right? It's like you said. If you can find a better investment, let us know. There's not a piece of real estate that's more important investment than yourself. You are it. That's it. That's the ultimate thing. So I love that, and I'm so glad we were able to reconnect.
Me too.
And we're staying connected on social media for sure. Yep. And you've even recruited some people on. We have Nick Unsworth coming on. I'm excited. We're going to get Sebastian on here.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. So David, we end the show the same way every time. Okay. Right. And I'm a big believer that we can only be in one state of mind at a time. So if you're in victim state, at that moment, there's literally no room for gratitude.
Right.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
And if you're in that gratitude state, you're in that joyous state, you're in that unstoppable state, there's no room at that moment for victim mentality, for the woe me, for all that negative energy. And and I'm a big believer that life always asks questions. Right now, David, life is asking you, if you could purr like a kitten or roar like a lion the rest of your life, what would you do?
Oh man, roar like a lion. Come on,
I
right?
knew that, brother. I knew that.
That's what it's all
so
about.
we're going to take this out Monster Motivator style. You ready? It's,
All right.
it's called the Monster Motivator Roar. Are you
All right.
familiar?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've
you
seen
are.
it.
All right. So on 3, we're going to do the Monster Motivator Roar, and I got a feeling he's going to do it better than me. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Ah! Awesome job, brother. Awesome job.